Hey guys, it's Matt here, and today I'm bringing you another episode of Matt Rants. And before we actually begin talking about the topic of the episode, just want to mention that we've made it to 51 episodes. Woo! Right? Cue the applause, cue the confetti. Which the confetti and the applause was supposed to come last episode, but which either came out earlier today or yesterday, depending on when this episode is also coming out. But there was so much going on in my life that I forgot that I reached 50 rather, until the end of the episode, and I was like, oh my, right? Like that happened. So either way though, here we are, episode 51. Thank you all, new subscribers, old subscribers, whoever you are. Thank you all so much, and let's continue on with the topic of this episode. So, we're talking about the new Nintendo Switch rumors, and we have to ask the questions. We usually ask different questions throughout these Matt Rants. Let's ask the question, is this legit? And I'll give you guys my critique at the end of everything, but let's compile everything we've seen so far, because it's actually kind of hard to find articles about this, because there was some kind of leak in March that I didn't notice, and I'm not even talking about that leak, I'm talking about the one right now. And we'll talk about we'll talk about the person who made the leak right now. I'll talk about his right to wrong ratio a little bit here and there, a little bit later on in the video, but his name is Marcus Sellers. So Marcus Sellers on Twitter, he tweeted about a new Nintendo Switch. So not some kind of patch or something like that, some software upgrade. No, a hardware upgrade, like a new Nintendo 3DS, like like an Xbox One X, or like a PS4 Pro. So something along those lines. And looking at some of the specs that he has, I'm a little wary, but I'll get into more of that later on. So he said that it will release in early 2019. With 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of internal storage, and dynamic scaling that will output to 4K. So not that every game will be in 4K, just that there will be scaling, especially for some of the older games, that it will scale it. So that is a bit different, and the reason why is because output is different than scaling. Do I know all the tech behind it? No, but I do know that there is a difference between scaling and 4K, and that is very relevant. Other YouTubers have brought that up as well. I've seen a bunch of other YouTubers talk about this as well, like Dreamcast Guy, RGT85, and Review Tech USA. And even though I don't think I'm so far in either camp, I like those YouTubers, but I feel like there is just this camp of just either it's all correct, even though yes, Review Tech USA, Rich Review Tech USA did say that he wasn't saying that everything's going to be correct, but he was still very gung-ho about it, potentially, like seemingly being real. And then of course we have Dreamcast Guy and RGT85 who were so gung-ho in the opposite direction of, oh, this is clearly fake. Again, I'll give my reaction later on, but I just wanted to mention that note because a lot of YouTubers, I think just a lot of people in general, putting YouTubers aside, which is hard for me to do as I am one, but still, the 4K thing makes it seem like every game is going to be in 4K and output 4K. Not necessarily true. Anyway, there will also be a price drop for the Nintendo Switch, the original one, quote unquote, the one that we have right now, and also they will not be requiring developers to make new games to work on the quote unquote old Switch, i.e. the one that we have right now. So that means that certain developers could just make a game just for this new upgraded version of Nintendo Switch, and the old one will have to just suck it. I mean, I know it sounds silly, and but it's what it would have to do. It would just have to sit there and collect dust while some of these new games will be fully functioning on the quote unquote new Nintendo Switch. Anyway, I also would like to mention that it will incorporate Twitch streaming. So like live Twitch streaming will be incorporated into the new console as well. So talking about Marcus Sellers for a bit, he's someone who's made a lot of different predictions in the past. Some people try to make jokes. Oh, it's like, my dad's friend's son's friend's dad worked at Nintendo. People make those jokes. But I'm not going to make that joke. I remember back when I was a kid, random side note rather. This is my side story, Matt Rant's side story. My dad bought me some VCDs for Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Z and GT and not Dragon Ball. So Dragon Ball Z, GT, movies and OVAs. And they're all fan subtitled. It was really cool to have that as a kid because that was before Dragon Ball Z and GT, both anime, if you don't know, ended in the US. Now, why is this relevant at all? Because I would tell people, hey, I have these, and this is what's going to happen in the story. And they didn't believe me. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm immediately going to believe everything Marcus Sellers says, but they didn't believe me, and all of a sudden, you started having some kids. It was so strange. They would look at me and they would just be like, "Oh, really? Broly's going to be in another movie?" Well, my dad has movie 21, and he talked to his friend. And in movie 21, Broly goes to Super Saiyan 5. And I looked at that guy, this kid talking to me at the time. I was like, I was in 8th grade, and I was like, I don't know if do you think I'm trying to be cool? Because I'm not. I'm just telling you the truth. Like, I didn't tell him this because I was like, do you think I'm trying to be cool and saying this info? Because it's not. It's true. I have the VCD. Do you think that I'm lying to try to be cool? Do you think I'm faking? Are you trying to one up me? Are you stupid? Did you see like fan art online? Do you think it's real? Like Super Saiyan 5? I don't know. I never knew, and I never talked to that kid again, but I never knew what that kid thought. But it's just a situation where, here's another good one. I have a friend of mine who, I haven't talked to him in a while. He watched, because he's Japanese, his aunt sent him Super Sentai VHS tapes from Japan. If you don't know what Super Sentai is, it became Power Rangers in the US. So he got Super Sentai tapes in the mail, recorded off of a Japanese TV, and he would watch them, he would have fun, he would talk to his US friends about it, but they were all, again, kids are little shits. They were all little shits, and they would say that he was lying, and he'd be like, no, but I watched this, it's from Japan, I'm Japanese or half Japanese, and I used to watch them I watched them in my house, and they were like, nope, you're lying, Power Rangers is American, shut up, you're stupid. And it would just hurt because, this is just a little kid. I don't know how old he was at the time. Maybe 5, 8. He's just a little kid. He's just like, but I watched them in my home. So I don't want to go the route of, clearly it's the girlfriend from Canada, but she goes to a different school. It's in Canada. You wouldn't know her. I don't think it's that sort of situation. I don't know if this guy is 100% lying, but we do have to look at his credibility, his track record. And while I don't have everything in front of me, one of his recent predictions about Black Ops 4 Black Ops 4 coming out on Nintendo Switch has not proven to be true. There are some things that he said that have proven to be true, but again, I sadly don't have that track record in front of me, and it's kind of hard to keep because he does delete his tweets fairly often. But anyway, and also, actually, no, speaking of the deleting of tweets, some people said, aha, that shows that clearly he is lying. I disagree. Because here's the thing, right? People get backlash and they delete things. That does happen in modern day, if it's Twitter or YouTube or Facebook, whatever it is. Yes, people will do something wrong and then they'll get backlash and then they'll remove a tweet, right? That happened with Philip Muchin. I talked about that controversy in the last episode of Matt Rants. So that does happen. It happened with Philip Muchin's his apology. So it can happen, no doubt. But at the same time, when it comes to, hey, I'm leaking this information, if the leak was real, why would it not be taken down? I'm just putting that out there. Not saying that it's 100% legit, but if the leak was real, why would it not be taken down? Because you're going to get flack from it, not from you and I, right? Although, of course, you and I, the consumer, sure, we might tell them, hey, we think you're lying, we think this is bullshit, sure. But you're also going to get flack from the industry, from people that are looking around like, who fucking leaked this? People looking around and trying to find out, because obviously Marcus Sellers, from the looks of it, isn't someone who works at Nintendo. It's him who has, he has sources. Sources that, again, we are not privy to. And frankly, I'm okay with that, because if we were privy to all sources, if all sources came out and said, hello, my name is so-and-so. Oh, that's great. So we'd know who you are. We'd be able to tell that the claims are valid. And then you wouldn't have a job. So we'd never get sources again, because when someone would come out and say, hello, my name is Tom, and here are all the blueprints for the new Nintendo Switch. Awesome. So you're not only going to be fired, but depending on any non-disclosure agreements that you have, you're also going to jail, or you're getting sued for a lot of money. So for anyone saying, oh, well, the source isn't legit because we don't know who's behind the sources, we'll never know, right? Until it's like a deathbed, confessional book, autobiography, sort of something like that, because you can't know. I'm sorry to say this, guys, and I know it sucks because it does hurt reliability. It really does. I get you. But you can't know, because then we'll never know again. Also, Nintendo can easily change these plans up, which would also affect the not only the credibility, but the possibility, rather, of this happening as well. Either way, though, let me actually, putting sellers aside for a second, let me break down each and every point here and why I think that it might be a yay, a nay, or just a complete impossibility. Not, and I hate to say impossibility, because yes, I know nothing is impossible, but I'll get into it right now. So let's start off with talking about this being released in early 2019. Not happening. Not freaking happening. I don't know who Sellers' source is, but they have to be dead wrong about that. They have to just be dead wrong. It might be super close. It might, like, close as in maybe it's close to being finalized, the actual design, whatever they need to do to make this thing work. But to actually say, oh, because it looks like it's almost done, it's going to come out in 2019, hell no. They're going to sit on that thing till at the earliest late 2019 for a holiday release, which, by the way, I do have an article listed down below. So even though I don't have his tweet, I do have the article listed down below. So that actually reported on his entire tweet. So you can actually, and also some links to Review Tech USA and some of the claims that he made, along with Super Metal Dave. I think it's Super Metal Dave, or is it Dave, Super Metal Dave 64? I can't remember. But either way, their videos will be linked in the description box as well if you want to check them out and see what they had to say about this. Because Super Metal Dave also says that he talked to sellers and other sources, so that's very interesting as well. So apparently there's other people out there who are saying that this thing might actually exist. But again, my issue is early 2019. I gotta go with a hell no there. I have to go with a hell no, and here's why. We have had the Switch for, by that point, by early 2019, Switch would have come out for 2 years, right? Around 2 years. I'm not saying that you can't do a replacement of some kind, or an upgrade of some kind, rather. Upgrade's a better word. At some kind with a console. It's happened plenty of times before. I just mentioned them earlier. It has to happen eventually. But the issue is, it's only been 2 years. I don't even have a Nintendo Switch yet. So if I buy a Nintendo Switch tomorrow for $300, I know people are going to say tough cookies. I know that happens, right? You know, people sometimes get screwed over. It happens, you know, with games and with gaming. I mean, you can buy a game for $60, and a week from now it'll be 20, and you're thinking, ah, shit, right? That happens. It happens with any form of media, be it physical, digital, it happens. But it would still be a huge slap in the face if this game, if this console got an upgrade when it's still out for $300. Now, there was a talk of the price drop a little bit later. I'm going to bring that up right now for a reason. If there's a price drop, then, and I bought the Switch for maybe $200, it would still suck, but it wouldn't be the worst case scenario, because I did save money on it. So I'm not saying it would be the worst case scenario. I don't care about 4K. I don't care about live streaming to Twitch directly from a Switch. That was a weird Dr. Seuss nursery rhyme. But still, I don't think that I would really care about some of the stuff that this new Nintendo Switch would have. If you gave me $100 price drop for the old Switch, just to try to get rid of old stock, I'd be interested in that. However, even though they would want to get rid of old stock, here's something that people haven't been talking about. And I haven't seen any YouTuber talk about this. Maybe you have, but I haven't heard any YouTuber talk about this in particular. So, connecting this to the story that we talked about a while ago on Matt Rants, that made the rounds all around, the story about the Nintendo Switches getting hacked, right? And heck, even Nintendo Switches cracking. So with the Nintendo Switches cracking, that issue, which if you guys don't remember, there were certain cracks in certain areas near fans, like on the actual mobile Switch, like the actual mobile screen. It wasn't on the screen itself, rather, but like around the casing and the shell. It didn't seem like it was something that if you dropped the Switch on its face or a certain way that it would crack as if it were dropped, because it happened to other people as well. Not millions and millions of people, but it happened to enough people that there were some people saying, hey, Nintendo, what can you do about this? And Nintendo said nothing about it. They did not claim as if it was an issue with overheating or something like that. It seemed like it was, but they never claimed it. So in that regard, for the Nintendo Switches cracking, maybe they would want to make a new Nintendo Switch. Maybe they're worried that the old Nintendo Switches might start cracking or something like that. But I don't think they would be doing that. Right now we're in August. As of this recording, we are in late August. I don't think it would happen within the next few months, because what do we have left? We have September, October, November, December, January. I don't think within 5 months, unless they really start hearing these crazy issues or something like that, I don't think they'd pull the trigger. I would say pull the switch, God damn it. No, they'd pull the trigger on bringing this new Nintendo Switch in early 2019. So that's the next part, of course, is the hacking. But here's the thing about the hacking, though. People have been trying to hack new Nintendo Switches, not this, rumored new one, just like buying one off of Amazon or Walmart or whatever, whatever store you have in your area. They walk in, and if it's a brand new stocked Nintendo Switch, they buy it, and they realize that there's some issue, that they can't use the same hacking methods that have been posted online, that have been used with early Nintendo Switches, like when it first came out, or in the first year and a half. They're noticing that there's some kind of change with the hardware. So I think that's whatever Nintendo is doing to change it. I don't know. I'm not a tech guy, but I do think that whatever they're doing there potentially is that's all they need to do. They don't need to release this new Nintendo Switch to stop the hacking. I feel like no one's talking about this, and I hate it only because of the fact that I don't hate them. I just hate the fact that these stories do come together, and it feels like we just talk about them separately and we're not trying to connect them in any way, where it's like, no, this could potentially have something to do with the hacking and the bracking, the bracking and the cracking. And I feel like everyone has just dropped it. It's like, guys, no, this is the Switch stuff we need to be talking about alongside this rumor that could either give it credibility or, in my opinion, could not. For the cracking, maybe, but for the hacking, no. It seems like they've already potentially solved that problem with the newer Nintendo Switches that are already out on the market, that have no change in like none of these changes that I'm actually talking about right now. So when it comes to that release, early 2019, highly doubt it. Also highly doubt it because it would just erode all of Nintendo's goodwill. I know they have to appease stockholders, I totally get that, but at the same time, it does seem like they want to also build up this goodwill, and I think even though this would not be an immediate replica or copy of Sega's mistakes with, the Genesis 32X, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, and then the Sega Dreamcast, it would not be like that necessarily, because that was a hell of a lot in a short amount of time. But at the same time, though, I don't think that, even looking at my cousins who recently got a Nintendo Switch, they would probably feel slighted if they couldn't play some new games on their Nintendo Switch because they weren't made compatible with this Nintendo Switch that they just bought. So I think that Nintendo really is going to be thinking about that, and if they do release it in 2019, if they do, it would be very late into it. Very, very late into it. But honestly, if something like this is coming out, I think it would come out at the earliest 2020. You disagree? Tell me what you think in the comment section down below, but I don't think Nintendo would want to feel like they're screwing over their fans. Yes, of course they want profit, but I've also heard that these Nintendo Switches are not that hard, in terms of monetary wise, are not that hard to make. So when you buy a $300 Nintendo Switch, they're making good money off that. Now I know corporations, stockholders want you to make even more money and more money and more money. Doesn't matter if you made, $1 million more. Why didn't you make $2 million more, $3 million more? What are you doing? A profit doesn't matter. How much more of a profit can you make? I do get that corporations are like that, and you have stockholders that just want more and more and more money. I get it. But I don't know if Nintendo is going to want to make their fans turn on them, because they have a very strong fan base right now for the Switch. Even though there are some people out there that are saying the Switch is only a port console, there are others that are okay with that. Maybe they never got the game that other people are saying, that it's getting ported. So maybe they got the game, but they got the game so long ago that it's a nice HD remaster, and they can also, take it on the go with them, right? So, yes, I understand that there are some criticisms with the Switch. There are some criticisms, but at the same time, there are a fair amount of people, or a lot of people, I would say, who are really interested and happy with their Nintendo Switches, and I don't think this would help this would not help morale with the public. YouTubers, maybe people would still buy them because, of course, you got to review this game, you got to review that game, you got to do this unboxing, etc., etc., etc. But when it comes to the consumer, the random consumer, I don't think they'd be excited about it. And I don't think people would be happy about this upgrade again, if they can't use their old Switch, that's the thing, especially so soon. But anyway, I'll get to more of that a little bit later. 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of internal storage. And the reason why those two are relevant is because something I forgot to mention earlier, sellers said this might make the price increase. So it might be higher than $300. And to that I say, Nintendo's not going to do that. Again, I think that whoever gave sellers this information is too gung-ho. I don't know why gung-ho is the word of the, what's the word of the day, kids? Gung-ho. Oh! But for some reason, gung-ho is the word. So with gung-ho, rather the person who gave sellers this tip, if there is this person, if this person does exist, right, who gave them the tip, I think they're a bit too excited about this, and I don't think it's done yet, because I don't think Nintendo would look at these specs and go, you know what, if we have to make it more than 300, people will buy it. Even though it might be considered a pro version, at the same time, I don't think people would be excited about, even with the price drop for the Switch from 300 to 200, I don't think they'd be happy with paying for a version of the Switch that would be $400. I don't think so. You'd have to have some kind of crazy kooky bundle, and I don't think it'll be a Resident Evil 2 bundle, but you have to have some kind of crazy kooky bundle that would, or a Black Ops 4 bundle, that would really make people want to, really would want to get this Switch. But I really don't know what kind of bundle you'd make. Potentially maybe putting in more than one game even, or putting in a game with the Switch. But even then, I don't know if people would want to pay $400 for this kind of upgraded Switch. Now, let's talk about, of course, the dynamic scaling that will output to 4K. I don't know why this would happen, not because it can't, but based on the fact that why is Nintendo all of a sudden super happy about 4K or super interested in 4K? I don't think they think, and again, I don't know what they think. I'm not them, right? I'm not Nintendo. But I don't think they're sitting back and thinking, man, we missed this boat. Like Nintendo, in my opinion, yes, they have changed over time, a little bit here and there, especially if they feel like they're really losing money, like with the NES and Super NES Classic, with the NES Classic rather, because the SNES Classic has been fairly well stocked. I made a video about that actually, about the current myth. It's only a myth right now, that the NES and Super NES Classic are hard to find. Made a video on that. You can actually check that out on the channel as well. It wasn't a Matt Rants, it was a different type of video, but still, but at the time when the NES Classic first came out, of course it was very hard to find. Nintendo learned from that, released the NES Classic 2 more times after that, currently have it in stock in a lot of places, even more stock than they have the SNES Classic, which they, we're still trying to keep in stock because they're sitting back going, okay, we made a mistake there. It's printing money, clearly. But I don't think they're sitting back going, these people that are, that are saying things about 4K, we're really losing their purchase. I don't think people are going to look at the PS4 and the Xbox One, Xbox One, could be Xbox One X and PS4 Pro as well, but still, they're going to look at Sony and Microsoft and go, you know what? The second Nintendo said 4K, I just thought, fuck them. Right? I just took the PS4 and I used it as toilet paper. Why do I care about the PS4 now that there's a Nintendo Switch with 4K? I really don't think people are doing that. Like, I think people are going to, because I think people would shit on the Nintendo Switch regardless, because, you start having the output to 4K, they would say, but it's not true 4K. Right? You have the output to 4K, they would say, but it's still kiddie games. No one over a certain age is really going to play them anyway. Who cares? So they would still say whatever they want to say regardless. So I do not believe that Nintendo is actually implementing that. Or is so interested in implementing that. So I think that's kind of what threw me off. But again, not to the point where I'm like, oh, it's 4K, the Switch can't do that, even with these specs. Again, it's not 4K. It's a dynamic scaling, quote unquote. So it's kind of like not even necessarily an upscale. Although I guess you could refer to that if you would like to. Let's see here. I mentioned the price drop, which I would be very happy about. And the not requiring developers to make new games to work on the quote-unquote old Switch is what I mentioned earlier. I talked about that a little bit earlier as well, but I still need to mention, again, it's a goodwill thing. It will not look good on Nintendo, even though it's third-party developers, but it still would not look good on Nintendo if they quote-unquote abandon the Nintendo Switch after only 2 years, it would make it seem as if this version of the Switch was only released because of how the Wii U failed. And here's the thing too, right? The Wii U didn't do well, so some would think, and I think understandably so, and I think even rightfully so, would say, oh, the Switch was released a bit too early just to see if it could work. It was released without certain functions and without certain things that should have been included in it in day one. I hear you. I'm actually not going to disagree with you there. But my problem comes from the fact that, that immediately means that Nintendo's going to abandon their old Switch, quote unquote, for this new Switch under 2 years or around 2 years. I don't believe that. I really don't. And it's not because I trust in Nintendo. I'm not sitting there and being like, Nintendo senpai. I just think that it does not make sense that they would sit there, because it just makes it's the equivalent of saying, yeah, we're fucking you over. What are you going to do about it? And I just don't think Nintendo wants to have that kind of attitude. And some of you guys probably think I'm wrong. Again, I'm not saying that Nintendo hasn't made mistakes before. I'm just saying that this is one that would be very hard to learn from, because you can't unlearn a console. You can release more of a console if you're like, we screwed up, but you can't just you can't say, never mind, let's stop the new Nintendo Switch even though it's been out for 6 months to a year. Let's cut this off and let's jump back to the old Nintendo Switch. You can't just do that with your stock. With your actual stock of, you can have a mistake like the Virtual Boy, but you can't have a Virtual Boy that works really well and then release the Super Virtual Boy, have that fail, and then go back and hammer down, hunker down with the Virtual Boy. You can't do that. That doesn't happen. I've never seen that happen. That's literally never happened. And I'm actually, maybe it has happened. Maybe I don't know about it. But I don't think that's ever happened in the history of consoles. Yes, you've had games, be released on 2 different consoles at the same time, like the NES, Super NES, or something like that. That has happened. But you haven't had Nintendo or any other company be like, no, the Super Nintendo's failing. Let's jump back to the NES. No, the N64 is failing. Let's jump back to the Super Nintendo. And I know those are brand new consoles versus a console upgrade, but still, that hasn't happened with the new 3DS and the 3DS either. I don't think it would happen here. I think they would wait a while before telling developers that they could actually develop games that won't work for a quote-unquote original Switch in this situation. The Twitch streaming thing, Nintendo said a lot of negative things about streaming in the past, and they've actually not really enjoyed live streaming, at least on the YouTube side of things with YouTube Gaming, or with Twitch either. So I don't really understand why they would now want to jump on this bandwagon. However, this actually could potentially be a thing. I mean, the reason why I'm saying this is because, yes, like I said earlier, I've been saying over and over, Nintendo does learn from their mistakes. If they see money in it, that's the thing. If they see money in it, perhaps maybe they do something where they'd have another kind of just like they have the YouTube monetization policy, which I actually really do enjoy. I know some of you out there don't like it, but I've done a video on it. I actually do enjoy it, although there was one issue that I had. It was an older Matt Rants, and I talked about it there. But perhaps when it comes to live streaming, if they do see that there's money in that, they could make a different kind of deal for live streaming with YouTubers or Twitch folk that live stream. Maybe they would do that. I don't know. I mean, that could be a possibility. I'm not saying that's the one thing that I'm like, nope, it's fake. Twitch, it's fake. No, not necessarily. But I do think that's just another one of those things that just does seem kind of like a fantastical idea that I just don't. I don't know. It just seems a little bit off. That's the thing. It seems a little bit off, but I don't think it's the thing that kind of just, broke the camel's back. It makes me sit back and go, nope, this is clearly fake. I don't believe that. Either way, though, as we're wrapping this video up, I just want to say that, again, is this legit? I think that it is not. But when I say that it is not, I mean that I think some of the specs and the release date and things like that, I think that someone just got a little bit too excited, and either it's sellers or it's someone who told sellers, and I don't think this has any weight right now. I'm not going to say that this will never come out. So if you're saying, but Matt, then if we frame it as will it ever come out, then I do think it's legit. But from the angle of, does everything check out, or does most of this check out? Do you think most of this will be happening when they say it's happening, how they say it's happening? And I don't. I think that someone got wind of a prototype And that's the best case scenario. If there isn't any lying here or any kind of trickery, then clearly someone got a hold of some prototype or talked about some prototype. Maybe in 20, 30 years from now, we'll find this random ass prototype and we'll be talking about it when I'll be in my goddamn 40s and 50s. Jesus H. Christ. But still, we'll be talking about it. But I think that right now, a lot of this just doesn't add up, and I think that Nintendo would not do something like this for fear of the backlash. Yes, money does matter. I know some people will say it doesn't. Sadly, we live in a capitalist society, sorry, so money does matter. I'm not saying that we need to be greedy here, but money does matter. So yes, it does, but I don't think Nintendo would put money, in this case, money over fan appeal in 2018. Because the thing is, if you try to put one over the other in 2018, then people won't buy your new Nintendo Switch and then they'll hate you or they'll despise you. And if they're not going to continue working on the 3DS and then they kill that off, then you just have one console that people aren't interested in because they feel like they've been burned. So I don't think Nintendo is going to want to take that risk, especially when if they release it too early and then they get burned, then all of a sudden PS5 and Xbox, whatever, the sequel to the Xbox is, the Xbox 720, and people just fucking lose it in a good way. They just lose their minds. They're like, oh my god, these are the saviors, these are amazing, and then Nintendo's left out in the dust again. I don't think they'd want their new Nintendo Switch to turn out like the Wii U or the Virtual Boy. That's just my take on it though. Whatever you guys might think, please comment down below. Would love to hear what you guys have to say, and if you like the video, please remember to like and subscribe. If you don't like the video, you can still like and subscribe either way. So, thank you all so much for listening in. Really do want to hear what you guys have to say though, whether or not you believe this, you don't believe this, you believe Marcus Sellers, you don't believe whoever Marcus Ellis is talking to. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I want to hear what you guys have to say. So, love you all. Take care and tune in next time for another episode of the Matt Rants. Okay, guys. So, see ya.